This is Isonzo. We're here on Xbox Series S taking a look at this World War I shooter that takes you to the front lines of the Italian front. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So what are we getting here on the Series S? Well, we have kind of a singular mode with an option to uncap the frame rates. So what are we getting? It's 2880 by 1620p. And it is targeting 60 FPS by default, but I have the option on right now that is unlocking the frame rate. There's also a gore option and a field of view selection. I will also mention that the game has crossplay, 40-player lobbies, and you can turn crossplay off if you want. There is bot fill. There is also the option to just kind of play with others, creating custom offline maps or matches. And generally it's a multiplayer focused experience in World War I action. Now with the Series S, it does seem that it is, there's a lot of screen tearing. Like on Series X, it was, it's a little noticeable here or there, but on the Series S, it's definitely something that is present. And that seems to be the case whether you've unlocked the frame rate here, where you do, because it's resolution scaling, like it's dynamic resolution scaling, but it doesn't seem to be, again, it's not perfectly smooth. And even if you turn off the uncapped frame rate there, I don't know if you saw that quickly, but unlock frame rate is off, it still screen tears really, really badly. VRR doesn't really super seem to help out, but it does help out a bit. Just keep that in mind. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like terrible performance, if that makes sense. Like, it does seem to run mostly fine, but I've noticed a lot more screen tearing on this one. And uncapping the frame rate, obviously, that's going to allow you to get higher frame rate levels, so you can get up to 120 FPS. Keep in mind, I can't record at it. YouTube doesn't support it, so you're kind of getting hopefully the effect of just seeing that mode kind of in action when it was on. And I'll also mention that the developers did pass along that they are working on additional graphics mode options for the next-gen Xbox console platforms, and they've passed those details along so I can let you know about them. So in the future, when you're taking a look at this game, or if you're taking a look at this video, those might be present, and that includes the likes of graphics mode options to choose between dynamic resolution mode, a mode that favors image quality, and a mode that favors performance. So those are coming down the line. We may revisit the game at that point in time, I don't know, but that I would go from there. So I quite like this experience. You may have saw my thoughts on the Series X version, maybe not, but we're going in fresh because, different people looking for different, console versions on this one. So I quite like this game, and I actually think it looks pretty good on the Series S from a visual standpoint. It's actually quite impressive. A bit more jaggedy in comparison to the Series X, but I think if you are used to typical Series S titles, this one will actually, resolution-wise, I think look a little bit sharper. It is actually kind of impressive for what it's going after, and it's a neat theater of war being on the Italian front. So there are several maps, and there's collections of different maps. So this would be part of like a 3-part series of levels where you're fighting through different objectives. Matches can take, up to an hour or so. They are decently lengthy, but that depends. Like when I was defending, it took an hour. When I was on the offensive, it took less than half an hour. It really matters how intensive your group is, is it a long fought battle, all that kind of stuff. That's going to make your matches and their lengths vary considerably, which is, interesting. And I would say this one bridges the gap between something that is a bit more of a hardcore shooter, since, you die in like a shot in this one. There's bandaging and whatnot, but it's also feeling a little bit more arcadey-like in terms of your movement and stuff like that. It does feature relatively large battlefields, and you do move along different fronts, completing different objectives, blowing things up, taking the position that you're trying to hold. There's like different building mechanics where you can like create spawn points, but they're preset spawn points on the map, or you might destroy those, or you might set up like an ammo you might build an ammo thing for people. There's different class options. There's leveling within those classes and improving and getting different weapons and a little bit of customization and personalization for some of your item accessories. Here's the building. You get a build menu and then be like, okay, I want to build a ammo crate here. You can go for that. And then, as I said, there's like pre-built building options as well. So right now we do have an option of like bots kind of playing. There are difficulty choices if you're creating your own custom match setup for how difficult the bots will be. They're not the brightest, but they definitely will kill you in regular multiplayer matchmaking rotation, as it's supposed to be a showcase of the regular gameplay, because we are pre-launch when we are taking a look at this experience. And I would imagine once it's kicking with people, it'll be pretty cool. In that regard, for combat, it'll be a little bit more dynamic than necessarily like bot type play. There's also, in general, you use a server browser to... Oh wow, I'm actually getting really smoked on this one. There's a server browser that is by default you're set up for picking matches, and I think that's great. You can set up private matches, you can play offline, and there's quite a few different options for how you want to interact with this one. I do find it to be fairly authentic to the era. If you're not familiar with the group, we also got the likes of Verdun and Tannenberg from them, so, you know, if you've played those games, this will feel right at home. If you like this game, maybe go take a look at those ones. They're both optimized for next gen, which is nice as well. So yeah, I'd say this one is quite enjoyable. It is a blast. You know, it can be a little annoying dealing with some of the screen tearing things, but if they clean that up with the different performance modes, yeah, I'd say this is, you know, more than fine and enjoyable and kind of a cool little different sort of shooter. I quite like, you know, having more variety. World War I, particularly the Italian front, is a theater of war that is often, in my opinion, neglected, not really used or done with. And yeah, it's kind of cool that this is present here. When you are fighting, you will basically either be attacking or you'll be defending. And then it'll move across the different, you know, sets of maps, as I've mentioned. And there are kind of like a little bit of like setup scenarios. So like off the offensive, you gotta wait a little bit, and then you go and you battle, you take the next spot, and you get the objectives done. There's also assists and different things that will give you, you know, help as you're battling along. That includes the use of like mounted kind of turret spots with the big guns, kind of funny. Then there's the well, you could use like a mortar strike, or you could call in like some artillery and whatnot. And you know, it could be pretty gory. You can hear like the screams of like soldiers as you knock them down and whatnot. And it's kind of neat. It's very mountainous, this game. Being on the Italian front, you know, this level in particular, like there are different places. There are some that are like a little bit more town-like. There's a forest level. Sometimes you're attacking uphill, sometimes downhill. There's good variety in the levels, and I actually quite like the design they have going on here. I think visually it actually looks quite nice. It's got a lot of good use of like carved out set maps and locations, just in regards to like, usually there's a lot more trench warfare. This one's a little bit more open terrain, but you do get lots of cover vantage points. It seems kind of maybe linear when you're looking at the map, but you really do have a lot of flanking routes and options for attacking or defending as well, because this is really steep kind of combat going on here at the moment. But it does feel pretty intensive. It is pretty fun. It is pretty engaging. I think it's a unique kind of shooter option. A little bit more leaning indie-wise, I guess you would say. But yeah, no, I certainly do enjoy what this game offers. I find it to be quite enticing, quite unique and exciting. I already said unique, but you get what I mean. It's distinct in what it offers, and it's just kind of a fun, engaging, combative experience here. And as I said, for Series S, I think visually this one actually looks really, really nice. Ah, that's some crazy pop, and I didn't really notice that on the Series X side of things. But yeah, you know what? I think it's pretty well done. I think if you like shooters and you want something a little different to play, you know, because we don't have a whole lot of World War I shooters, I think you could find this one to maybe hit a bit of a niche for you, something a little bit different. And if you like this, as I had mentioned, you can pivot off and check out Verdun and Tannenberg because they're very much along line this one in terms of like the style of gameplay, the authenticity push for uniforms and weapons and tools. There's like 30 plus weapons or something like that in this one. They really do provide some unique gameplay mechanics. It's you know, actually for Series S it might be more of a next gen showcase than some, but you know, it's not perhaps like groundbreaking in many ways, but it's still fun, enjoyable, exciting to play. You know, it's a little, oh wow, am I getting covered up? It's certainly distinct, and you know, I think it looks pretty good. I think it runs pretty well. I think the combat is kind of cool. You know, I like the style of the battles. It's very easy to tell enemies apart and whatnot. There's little bits of customization, little bits of personalization. I think it hits the mark. I don't really know what else I would have wanted out of this. It's fun, objective-focused combat across a good selection of levels with neat variations on how you battle on the offense or the defense. Yeah, I think they hit the mark quite well with this one. You know, playing a bit of it on Series X, playing a bit of it on Series S. I've definitely been getting some time in on this one to try to, you know, talk about it and showcase it well, and yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for this to be enjoyed by a lot of people that were wanting something new, and hopefully it kind of takes off, and you know, maybe we'll see varying levels of support and stuff. It'd be neat to get post-launch content, or even down the road it'd be neat to see them tackle other theaters of war, because obviously they've done two, and this is like their next-gen foray, I guess you would say, outside of like the Tannenberg and Verdun upgrades that they did, which once again very much appreciate when a company goes back and touches up their older titles, especially, you know, again, a little bit more of an indie-esque effort. But I don't really have any more context or info to get across. I think I kind of covered the full points that I needed to, and just enjoy some more non-commentary gameplay to see it in action and whatnot. See out there on the fronts of Isonzo on the Italian battles.